Okay, we're live.
Hey.
Recording in progress.
All right, call this meeting to order. You guys will pledge allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Declaration of potential conflict of interest, Kyle.
None.
None. Mike.
No, ma'am.
None. Fantastic. Any public comment? Anybody online?
Not yet.
Nope. Anybody in the? Nope. Okay, moving on. Approval of July SEPRD board meeting minutes, which Sue has, you already know what Sue wants to change, or we have to wait for Sue?
I think I missed a word in the IGA with City of Seaside for Bob Chisholm.
Excuse me, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I missed a word when I was composing the minutes, and it should say the contract would be for 5 years
Under the IGA.
Oh.
instead of would for 5 years.
Mike,
And
do you want your tablet?
No, I'll be all right. I'll turn my hearing aids up. I usually do that anyway.
then the other change that she asked for was under her board comment to capitalize the word play,
Oh,
like not capitalize, caps lock.
All caps?
Yes.
that's our slogan.
So I think those were her only changes. Kyle also had a change that he had shared.
I had one proposed edit, and that's on the second page, first paragraph, the bullet points. The second bullet point is expand out-of-district opportunities for folks to opt into membership. I think that would better reflect our conversations if it said for folks to access in-district rates.
Any other changes?
Move to approve the minutes with edits.
Thank you, Kyle. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mike. All in favor, signify aye. Opposed, nay. Kyle.
Aye.
Celeste. Aye. Mike.
All right.
Aye. Sue abstains because she's not here. Motion carries. Fee review. You want to kick off that discussion, or is that a Celeste thing?
I think Celeste's probably going to have some time to share. But yeah, we've done a good deal of efforting over the last couple weeks. So thanks especially to Darren and Justin, who couldn't be here. I'm not sure if Isaiah helped compile a master report kind of document, and I think we had hopes that it would be a little easier to gather the financial data or financial registration information and do some forecasting. It was just a challenge putting that all together, and Darren can speak more to that. We had a chance to present the information to Celeste. Was that yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yesterday, and that was a great conversation. And then I think Celeste and Darren continued to chat, and we got some other information from Celeste last night. I want to say, sorry, the timing, but my brain is a little fried. So, and I can pull that stuff up, and we can go from there. But yeah, it's been a really great process. It's complicated, it's a challenge, and I appreciate the board's engagement on this, because I know it's a lift, and it's to be honest, it's something that the board hasn't always expressed this much or very little interest in. So I can appreciate, but I also think it's great because we're investing some of these resources and time at a pretty crucial moment, I think, in the district where we're trying to do some really important things with our planning and possible expansion of district boundaries at some point. So it's really, I'd like to hit this nail on the head, and I feel like we've done a great process to get us to this point. Not saying that we're ready to identify which nail yet, but, at least the time committed has been, pure and with good intent, so. Would you like me to pull up documents? What do you think, Darren? Do you wanna share anything?
No, I actually, I sent to you earlier, Celeste, thanks for all the work on this. It was, it's much easier to look at and read, so I think you guys will really appreciate what Celeste has put together here.
Well, and I just want to second, like, the fact the staff collected this information, which I think is not only important to this process, but I think gave us a view of, like, what kind of data we want in the future and how we might parse it, because it's a lot of information. So just to give you an example, on the original spreadsheet that came over, it counted by month how many resident folks we had that paid for a service versus how many non-resident folks paid for a particular service, and then had the revenue amount for that month. And then it was across all of our youth programming, through all of our swim lessons, aquatic kind of stuff, across all of our passives, and then across all of our daily rates, like daily entry rates. So it's a lot of data. So I really appreciate that the staff, this time the staff took to put that together. What we tried to do is put some proposals together for you all to look at to make it a little easier to parse, so that's what we have here. And if you want to pass that down to, do you want one, Darren?
I have one right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pause you real quick, Celeste. Hey, Sue, do you have any conflict of interest? Hold on, we're gonna turn you up. Couldn't hear you.
Go ahead.
All the way. Okay, let's try that again. Sue, do you have any conflict of interest?
I do not, and I said the Pledge of Allegiance as I was driving.
We appreciate your dedication. We are now,
we're looking at a document too that is going to be a little bit hard to follow since you don't have it in front of you, and since you're driving, I assume you don't have a way to receive it.
No, I am actually sitting in the car at my old church parking lot.
Okay. So we'll do our best to make it make sense. What we're basically looking at is a proposal for 6 different ways that we could structure the fees. So I'm just going to run through them quickly. So we have them outlined as option A, B, C, D, E, and F. There are some caveats up at the top, but I'm going to hit those later because they're sort of in the weeds. So basically, the first option, option A, is the whole idea of this is that we have a rack rate, the published rate, and that our members get a discount. So option A is a flat 75% discount across the board on everything. So if you follow this down, I gave some analysis, right? That's the next box that says basically what I just said, 75% across the board. There's some pros to it, which is that's easy for people to understand, and it's a very large benefit for our members. The cons is it would cause a very large loss, projected loss in revenue. That's the big con to that one. The estimated revenue impact would be a negative $180,000 based on the numbers we ran, which have some flaws in them that we know, but it gives us a little bit of a litmus test. And I also calculated how many adult memberships we'd have to sell to offset that negative revenue. So we'd have to sell about 616. And if you keep going down,
More than what we have now, right?
Right, exactly. It's a lot. So that's option A. And what you could see is I picked some example fees so that you could see how a 75% discount would work. So currently an open swim is $2.25 for a member and $4 for a non-member. Under this option A, it would become $1.25 for a member and $5 for a non-member. So we're proposing an increase to our non-member fees, the rack rate, if you will, but that shows you what the discount would be.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so that's how it's outlined out. So 75% we knew was a big sparkly, kind of proposition, but that's how the numbers work out. So for option B, we became a little bit more conservative. We said 50% discount across the board for members. Again, easy to communicate. It's still a really good benefit to members. They get half off. Pretty easy to talk about. Cons is still a loss in revenue, albeit only $35,000 a according to this, and so it wouldn't take as many memberships to sell to offset that. It would take about 126. And then you can see an example of what the rates come out to. So we still see a significant reduction in cost for our industry people. Okay, so option C, we get a little trickier. We said we would give, I'm going to start at the back end, 70% off for like daily rates, like open swim and things like that, 70% discount for that, so they get a big sparkly rate for that, but only a 50% discount if for youth programs, and 60% for everything else. And in that case, we have a $55,000 loss. It is harder to communicate that structure to the public. It's harder to understand. But it's still some pretty significant savings if you wanted to look at just what it costs to get in for different things. Okay. Similarly, option B was a little more conservative than that. It just went with, instead of 50, 60, and 70% discounts, I backed it up and said 40, 50, and 60% discounts. And you can see at this one, we actually increase our revenue. So we would have 5,000 plus income if we reduce rates that way. But the discounts aren't quite as awesome. In fact, what it amounts out to is that our in-district members would be paying almost the same as what they're paying now. They just wouldn't see an increase. It would be a slight decrease most of the time. But it's about even. Okay, option E gets even trickier. 40, 50, 60, 70. And then there's the last one that's a little bit, what I found is the place where the discounts made the least amount of sense was in the youth programs, specifically childcare, just because that's an expensive program to operate, and so to give that kind of a discount just kind of sank the whole thing. And so on this one, I said a 60% discount across the board, except for youth programs, that would only be 40%. And what that basically means is that our in-district people would be paying about the same for their child care kind of option, but the other discounts are pretty good for our in-district members. And with that one, we only lose $10,000 in revenue. One of the things I wanted to illustrate in looking at these kinds of options is that we are looking at anytime you're looking at losing revenue, it can kind of cause some levels of alarm. But so on the reverse side, I actually wanted to show how much revenue loss the impact is. So the tall bar is our total revenue according to our budget, and the small bar is how much revenue we'd be losing according to each of these options. So I just want to point out option C is actually a plus net, but option D and E, actually options B, C, D, and E are all fairly small revenue impacts. Option A is more significant. It's up at the $180,000 level. But even that, compared to where most of our revenue comes from, it is at fees. Our total revenue for fees, not including special events, because we didn't calculate special events, so that's another question. But our total program fees are about $783,000, or about 19% of our revenue.
What?
Sounds about right.
Does that seem about right?
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Say that again?
What was this last thing, about 119,000?
Our total program fees are about 783, unless I missed something. I had it at about $783,000.
Okay.
Which is about 19% of our revenue. So I could have missed something.
Well, so I'm just saying, this is our tax levy. We levied $2 million in taxes out of $4 million. So we got to have something close to $2 million in.
I didn't count special events. So there were some other things that
they
were
represent
counted.
$1.3 million.
No, not special events, but it was pretty high.
So there's got to be $2 million in other revenue from somewhere.
So I can pull that budget up. I pulled it from our budget, is what I was.
Is there other revenue out there, Skylar, that I'm missing?
There's grants. Included in that $4 million budget of non-program revenue is our carry forward, our ending fund balance. That's part of that $4 million number. And so that could be, what was that, like close to 400,000?
500, yeah.
Rolling into this year should have been closer to 800.
Okay.
So,
So that means we're getting 1.2 million from other places. Is that right? how much are we getting in grants
We have.
on an annual basis?
Depends, maybe like a couple $100,000.
Couple hundred grand.
Mhm.
Okay, so I was thinking that, I had it kind of fixed in my
That's
mind
me
that,
too.
well, if we got about 2 million, then the other 2 million would
Right.
come from you.
So that's why I did this, because I wanted us to right size, like,
Right.
this, impact to the
Perfect.
total, because if the impact is, and there's some roughness to this, because we don't have every single thing accounted for here, and so,
And we can't predict the.
and we can't predict all the stuff, so
Right.
losing $10,000, I would count that as sort of a wash, because it could be up or down from that, like, it's not that consequential to the whole scheme of the picture. So I didn't want us to decide to X out an option because of a $10,000.
No, well, but there are other other than financial advantages, there are other
Totally.
advantages
Yeah.
that we don't capture with that
Correct.
$10,000.
Right, that's right. So, and then to go into the minutia up here, one of the things that I did do is I increased our youth program's base rate. So non-district members would pay substantially more for that. And I think Skylar mentioned that there are some state of Oregon requirements, so we still need the staff to do some work and make sure that what I proposed isn't completely out of whack. To be specific, it's a 25% increase over what was being paid last year. So that's the formula I used.
It's not bad.
And,
Okay.
yeah, and so that's one kind of thing, consideration. The other thing, generally, the other rates were about 25% across the board for some of the other, like swim lessons and things like that, that I increased the base rate to. And then there's some data not included in here, like special events, we didn't quite get to like open gym fees. There was some data that we just didn't have time to kind of collect, but I expect that it's gonna be a similar impact across the board.
So Celeste, given this awesome amount of analysis that you've done, thank you for this. Do you have a recommendation of which option you think might work best for the district?
I would like to hear their recommendations.
I would say,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, so I'm just speaking for Skylar, and the way that Skylar likes to lead our organization is through coalition building and support, and I haven't had the opportunity to do that. So just speaking for myself, I really would probably opt for the simpler of the options. I think that option F makes a lot of sense to me. It's easy to understand. It provides that good benefit for members. It's not a substantial change in membership, or in rates that our members pay currently, but it does increase the out-of-district rate, and I think it's, in a lot of ways, it's going to be pretty close to the original proposal, but with more data backing it, and kind of aligning the rate. So that's probably the one that I would choose, but I can see value in some of the other structures or options as well.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear which option you were preferring.
I would probably opt for option F if I was just choosing for myself.
And I would.
Feel free to speak differently.
Yeah, I would actually have to agree with you. I think simplicity is very, very important for staff, but the importance of setting a very common way of factoring all of these pricing pieces that we do, starting here going forward, I think is really, really key, really important. Quite a number of years ago, we always used 1.5 times the in-district rate to calculate the out-of-district rate, but I think kind of maybe working some of these backwards, and saying 60%, for the resident discount, I think is a better way of approaching that. But setting a standard is really, really important, for sure. But I have some little reservations about dropping prices below, for residents now from where we're at, rather than taking the current pricing structure and then, adding the additional for the out of district. I think it's always important to consider the fact that we as a district are facing you know, ever increasing gas and electrical costs and a lot of those overhead pieces, we've seen the insurance rates go up 12% this year. So I think always kind of maybe keeping that in the back of your minds as we are having that discussion about rates, that we kind of do still need to grow those, trying to keep up as much as we can with those overhead increases that we see.
So that's, I'm sorry.
I think, the point you made about, you know, cost of trending, I think now is for, you know, a lot of increased costs across the board, in a lot of different areas. We're paying more an hour for our workforce. We have the need for staff retention. We have definitely increasing, and we can anticipate another increase, for electric power and gasoline, gas, you know, for our pool and heating and cooling. I really feel that whatever we select should be balanced, and I could see where the in-district memberships should carry some of the burden for these across-the-board increases. However, you know, we are providing the benefits for members primarily, and so the non-district, out-of-district people, you know, need to chip in, you know, and it's good to track them. Also, I'm wondering about the impact on the different insurances that support some senior member, you know, programs, and that makes it pretty easy, you know, an increase for, you know, residents would not be that hard to bear too on for aquatics programs. So I'm just keeping that in mind. I want to make sure that since we've got an established budget that we come close to that and balancing it out.
Yeah.
And this is great what you've done, Celeste. It's amazing, really, these analysis. I would be open to even option D, but as you pointed out, the benefits of these other, you know, E and F.
Does the adjustment in the out of just the rack rate, does that take into account cost recovery? Or
So,
is it just?
I didn't have the information to do
25%
that, but I actually think using a structure like this to move us forward with some sort of standard math to it would help. My guess is it would help the staff so that if we have to make an adjustment to rates, it's faster to do it because you can just do some math and it just populates the whole thing. And or that we can project out what the impact would be if we raised rates. And we only have to raise the rack rate because the discount's going to be the same for everything.
What's the definition of, or what activities are included in youth programs?
So preschool, infant, toddler, classroom.
Daycare?
We don't have
aftercare.
We don't have daycare.
But
Yeah, infant, toddler
colloquial
care,
terms,
preschool,
daycare.
after-school program, and summer camp are the programs included in the youth program umbrella.
Do you want to share one of the spreadsheets so that they could just see like what you guys tracked? Do you have that?
I don't, but Skylar, did I send that to you?
Here, I can email it. I have it.
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
It's in that email.
Yeah, I can pull it up if you give me a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could do it, but I don't think I can share my screen. So. Because it lists the programs that were as part of
Right,
this.
well, and I just want to make sure that we're not creating barriers to youth to, you know, enter our programs. But if it's just preschool and after-school care, well, that's a little different.
The thing that I'm hoping that we're considering implementing is the early registration for these programs.
Yeah.
Because, so, as a parent of young children that are in a lot of these programs, the biggest barrier to having my children in these programs is that out-of-district folks are competing at the same time.
They're filling up the seats.
Correct. So I don't think there's ever going to be we have open spaces because we don't have kids participating. It's going to be, we have more, we're serving more of our in-district folks that are already paying their taxes. whatever's left will be filled by those out-of-district folks.
So this is the original.
Zoom,
This is actually the original one, so
Yeah.
if you wanted to pull that one up from your, it should be in your email.
Yeah,
There's a
I
link.
have it, sorry, I was confused.
That's okay.
because honestly, besides doing this discount, the biggest benefit to communicate to our in-district
It's
people
first-
is gonna be first come, or, you
This
know,
one?
24 hours, a week,
Yeah.
whatever. That will be the selling point.
So if you go to the
Being in
last tab, the 60/40 tab,
truly, as a parent.
Mhm.
I think
Okay.
so too. I think it's important. So on the, this is the 60/40 tab. This is the option it has,
Yeah,
for
bigger?
example. So you can see up at the top is youth programs. In yellow, we show 40%. That's the discount level. Skylar could literally type in there any percentage and it would just change the whole spreadsheet. So what you see is you have the preschool, after school zone, summer explorers, and summer adventures. So if we look at summer explorers, for instance, don't look at the numbers in the white, in column A. Look at, so the current income for summer explorers is, a member pays $150 a month and a non-member pays $190 a month. If we give them a 40% discount, we would increase the rack rate for non-members to $238. But 40% off gives our district members a rate of $143. So they're actually, our district members are actually recognizing a slightly, discount, a slight
I
improvement in
like
price.
that, I like that.
So that's how it goes. And then down here, if you go over to the right, you can see the impact if you scroll all the way right, Skylar. Over in the right, you can see how this fleshes out across the whole year. So we're gaining a little bit. We have a plus 1,637 across the whole year, a loss of 948, and a loss of 2885, and then a gain of 113, and then a loss. So we're still losing a little bit by giving a 40% discount, but not a huge amount. And so that column exists. So we did that. So this is just for youth programs. So then we did it for aquatics and for passes. So there's aquatics at a 60% discount, and you can scroll all the way to the right again, and you can see using a 60% discount. Here's how we come up.
So are we still talking about F?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Good tracking, Sue, on the phone. Holy cow.
I have in front of me, believe it or not, the June 25th letter that Skylar wrote about the fee review, and I have the chart
Oh, good. Okay.
was given, so I'm trying.
Okay.
I think we need to remember we have to communicate this to our patrons so they say, yes, I'm really proud of this, or thank you for taking care of me.
Yeah, I think you're right, Sue, and I think it's partly a gut check. Like, I feel like, as a consumer, that if you said to me, I get 60% off as a district member, I'm pretty excited. I tried it out on my husband last night, and he's like, that's awesome. What's the gym like? That was the first thing he asked me. Like, because 60% off feels pretty good.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, that was, but part of it is a gut check. What do we think?
So, my kind of overarching concerns, I want to get roughly the amount of income. I want to kind of stay in balance, and I'm willing to be a little bit out of balance, like you say. I don't think district taxpayers should subsidize out-of-district people
I agree.
to come into our district. And I want to make sure that, those people in our community who are impoverished and may not be able to make use of our services still have access, whether that's through the foundation or whatever method. I don't wanna price anybody out of the activity.
Agreed.
Are you saying, sorry, I wanna make sure I understand, if this if we wiggle around this percentage, that, let me phrase that differently. I have the same concern that Darren had, and then he shared about, not about decreasing revenue at a time like this, given and I can value that. So I guess what I would like to maybe encourage the board to think about is finding rates that are slightly either at or slightly above the current rate, and then applying this model to that new number. I think what is the rack
rate? It's just the base rate, but whatever the.
Okay.
The
So
retail-
I'm basically
the retail
saying,
rate, right?
yeah, like
Manufacturers
reverse
suggested
that
retail
process basically, and like find the rates that we're at now, increase them slightly, like marginally for in districts, and
Yeah.
then charge the 60% or 40%. Like do the math.
So work
Yeah.
work it backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can do that by just judging, but then you get some odd numbers like 62%.
Right. That way, I think
Yeah.
we're guaranteeing that our revenue from fees is gonna be at where we need it to be, or maybe go up a little bit.
Well, what we don't know is if we reduce the in-district rate for different activities, we may attract more people.
Yeah, but
At
the
a
majority
lower-
of
at a
like
lower price.
our revenue generating programs are at capacity. I mean, swim lessons
Okay.
and youth programs, they're full. It could attract more of the daily participants, like Jeff Bodner, for example. But
I mean, gym and pickleball and that kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah, so there is, I mean, I feel like, I will say option F is my favorite too, because I feel like it comes really close to staying. Because I actually took out the numbers that I think Justin had prepared, had built into them some member fee,
yes.
and I took that all out.
Yeah.
Because it was projections, and I
Such
just
an
wanted,
unknown.
yeah, it was such an unknown. So I just took that out. So this doesn't count any membership sales that we currently have.
Yeah.
Right. So when I say a $10,000 loss, I don't know if we sold that much in memberships, but it's probably
Probably not.
not quite that much.
If you're talking the guest residencies,
Yeah, yes, sir.
yeah, I think it was about $2,700 last
Okay,
year.
yeah.
I think Justin said though, there have been years where it was substantially more. It just so happens that a lot of our youth programs, almost all of our youth program slots are filled by in-district folks. So if that were to flip a little bit and we had more out-of-district youth programs folks in those, they're heavily incentivized to buy into the district.
Yeah, I mean, so I liked option F because I thought it sounds good, it's easy to communicate, it's basically 60% off everything except youth programs, which are 40% off. And it's not really much impact to the revenue, it's about even.
Well, okay, I'm just trying to understand the $10,000 loss, because I appreciate that too. So I do have a really odd question, and that is, right now we've got the Olympics going on and swimming. Are we seeing more kids wanting to get in the water, maybe more parents interested, and maybe there's a little bump because of the Olympics, and where do we offset a loss of $10,000? Or how?
Darren's gonna write more grants.
I'm doing this on the fly, but if we did 50 and 30, we end up with a plus net of about $49,000.
I was thinking 50 and 40.
I think grants are sustainable, they're not always sustainable. We need a sustainable fee. The grants are a bonus, it seems like, in some ways.
50.
We need to stay within ourselves.
A 50/40 takes us, we're plus 7,352. And again, this is based on last year's numbers, so who knows if we're gonna have the exact same.
Exactly.
So we could do 50/40, but what it does mean is that, members will see an increase over last year, but it's very small.
And I don't know, I think that's acceptable too.
I mean, for instance, an open swim, which I think is probably a pretty good test, would be $2.50 instead of, $2.25.
I mean, I guess I would ask, like, when we hear about, like, our local government maybe increasing water rates, like, those are something that's, in theory, you're already paying for as a tax-paying resident, and then you hear, the water rate's gonna go up by, I don't know, whatever it was in Tucson, I think it was like 7% or
Something, yeah.
like, I think that's just, I guess it demonstrates the cost of doing business right now in 2024 as opposed to 2010. So I don't know, I guess I still feel like we're providing a really great service at super affordable, accessible, inclusive rates, even for our residents, while still delivering the message that residency is really, the taxpayers are really what funds the district.
Exactly.
And because you're not a district resident, you have to pay this higher rate. And we encourage you to join the district either through this program or by convincing your whatever to join.
I guess the one question that, I would like us to answer, which will drive all of this, right, is the point of this review to generate more income for the district, or is the point to show a better benefit to our members? Because those are two separate things.
Yes, I agree with you.
Or there could be other reasons too.
Wait, you mean separate, like they both can't be objectives?
No, I think they can,
Okay.
but if we are like, we need more money, $10,000, $7,000, like that's not more money. That's,
Right.
That's
a
I'm calling it a wash at that
Yeah.
point, right? So if we're like, if the point of this is to increase revenue for the district, then this is not that, right? We need to be going about this a different way. So if we're, your example of the city, 7% water rates, all that, if the point is to recoup costs and put us in a better position for next year, this is not that, and it could still maybe be that a little bit, but maybe we need even more increase on the rack rate side, But
I would
I guess.
support that, I just don't wanna, the message I've heard from the board is that we really want to demonstrate the value of membership for our residents. And so I'm just mindful of that. I think though, even if the fee is only marginally adjusted for in-district, or even if it doesn't project out to net us a big chunk in revenue, the engagement that it shows that we are having internally to adjust fees, and it sets us up in a formulaic way that we can increase or adjust rates easily moving forward, and we don't have to have, ideally all 5 of you and us will be having the same conversation in a much simpler fashion in a year from now or 18 months from now or whenever the board chooses to review. Whereas before, we were basing our rates on, okay, what is Astoria doing, what is Tillamook doing, let's try to kind of figure out a way, okay, we think the value is, and to be honest and transparent, no hard feelings, the board was not super engaged in that process. And now I think there's been a much more collaborative effort to really look carefully at the why of why we need to do this.
Yeah, and I think to me, when I look at this, the reason to do it is to communicate value to being a member, to being in district, because when I think of revenue, I think of what does it mean if Gearhart option or Cannon Beach option, which then greatly expands our overall revenue. And I think in order to make that case, membership has to mean something, right? And if it's just, so to me, I'm trying to equalize it so that the non-members are saying, well, what do you mean only the member? Like, I want front desk conversations to be, this happens right now, because right now, only the city of Seaside, all the other communities opt in, and you can do all your recycling and all your garden stuff for free you can take, but Seaside didn't opt in. So my husband, we have to pay every time we go and take our garden stuff, it's $72. And so my husband asked, how come we have to pay and your heart doesn't? It's like, well.
Isn't there a yard debris thing at the fire department though?
Only when we're not doing construction.
Only once in a while,
Oh,
right,
okay.
yeah, so.
Whereas Gearhart, they have like the permanent one.
Gerhart has opted into this program that they have, and so it's free to take it up there. We know because we purchased property in Gerhart, and so it's free to take it up there. And so my husband asked about why. I want those conversations to happen at our front desk, and for people to say, what does it take to be a member? Why aren't Gerhart people members? I want them to ask that so that they go back to their city and say we should be a member.
That's just to kind of tag on to that, kind of circle back to Catherine. I think you can have both here. I think on the one hand, by creating the structure, you are telling that is the value you're getting on out of being a member or being a resident of the district, and that's what those tax payments do for you is it gets you this beautiful discount. On the other side of this, I think it is important too, not that we're trying to generate every last little bit of income that we need, but I think going through that 110% cost recovery exercise a few years ago kind of pointed something out to me that was really, really important. As I sat down with the guy on the phone, he's asking me 10,000 questions about, okay, so yeah, what do your front desk staff do? How do they help with the registration process? So so we went all through all this information, only to find out, yeah, okay, so the PRS staff, they're 2% of that program cost, right? Because of the time they spent registering folks into the program. So as we see all of our rates go up, I think it's just important to up those fees a little bit at a time, maybe an annual review of those fees, just to make sure we're keeping in step with that 110% cost recovery. We're not getting 110%, right? But if we're trying to maintain in this program, we're trying to maintain a 60% cost recovery. Well, the longer we let fees stay the same and yet all of our other tertiary costs go up, we're not maintaining that. Now we're at 59%. Now we're at 58%. Now we're at 57. And so we just, I think it's always important to review those fees so we stay in step. We're maintaining our 60% cost recovery as we go along. So I think that's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Well, I am actually trying to not move into the weeds. So, and it's simply because I'm sorry, Celeste, you have done a tremendous amount of work, and I thank you. I'm reading what Skylar wrote on one of his bullet points. So just help me along here. It says the July 2022 change included a 33% overall increase and an alignment of non-resident rates at approximately 50% more than the resident rate. That change also included taking all the punch passes. So when we looked at that step that was done, when that step was done, did you have a lot of complaint?
No, not that I can recall. I mean, I don't know if you can remember anything different there.
As far as increases go, no. The biggest complaints I ever got, Sue. Now this was back a number of years ago during the Justin Cutler general manager era. He actually did a very big increase to out of district rates. I think prior to that we were kind of working off of that 1.5 times the resident rate to calculate the non-resident rate. He kind of brought in he tried to standardize those numbers a little bit more, and what it saw was a doubling of the non-resident rate. And I was doing a presentation, I had a little booth for up at LCYSA up in Warrenton soccer fields, and I had a guy from Gearhart corner me and lambaste me about those increases, because it impacted. He was a daily swimmer. It impacted him in a really big way, because he suddenly went from $5 daily drop-in rate to $9.50 daily drop-in rate. So but I think I don't see that this is going to make a huge jump for out of district right off the bat, especially for looking at some of the daily drop-in rates I see on that sheet. But
well, especially if we offer the opportunity to buy into membership, right? Like that we're saying, you can buy in just like all the taxpayers automatically are. Just pay your part,
yeah,
right?
pay your part.
That, because then that is really hard to argue against.
Yeah.
Right? Like.
Yeah.
Well, I still think we need to somehow corner the market that doesn't know that this city has a pool.
So what, also,
Maybe.
Sue, one of the things I'd say, and for you guys as well, we haven't even really dived into it yet, but just the difference between members and residents and non-residents on the data that we collected. Looking at the youth programs, the non-resident participation in those programs is really low. You look at the numbers. It's in September it was in preschool it was one family. Same with October. It wasn't until we got to January we had two non-resident
Which means
families.
they're buying in.
Which means they're buying in, right? So,
You do, yes.
But the same
Or not
passes.
getting charged, is it possible they're not getting charged for some, like the staff just don't know that they're?
No, Justin actually went through and he told me this as he was going through putting this information in. He was double checking every single one of those
I mean, one
just
of
to
them's
make sure.
my sister-in-law, and I know that she buys in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But Darren said though, the total revenue in the buy-ins was only 2,700 last year.
Mhm.
So that's, I mean, that's, what,
10?
like maybe 7
Yeah.
or 8?
Yeah,
Just a median household.
and then that's a combination of folks that own their homes, but people that rent also, and the disparity in price between those two. That's not a perfect system, and that's certainly a system that I think needs to be delved into too, and probably cleaned up quite a bit.
Yeah,
So
because this depends on that, right?
Yes.
That being clear,
Mhm.
that it's, yeah.
clear and clean.
So I think we got three questions here we're dealing with. One is what are we trying to accomplish? I think that Catherine brought up. The second is what formula do we use, and then the third is what prices do we charge. So I think we've expressed what we're trying to achieve. If there are still questions, I like that the formula F. Personally, I think it's meaningful that it's easy to explain to the public, and it's easy to calculate for staff, and it's easy for us to understand. In terms of what the prices are actually charged, I don't have much energy on that. I think, we've got the outcomes we want. We got the formula that we got. You guys plug in the numbers and figure out what we need to do to be roughly in balance. And I don't know how many prices we have on our price list, but there's probably scores and more. And I don't know if the board should find itself in a position of articulating every price that we charge for every service. I think staff is more than capable of coming up with that once they know what the formula is that we're using. So I'm ready. I think this is a long time coming, and I'm glad to see that we're drilling down into it and paying attention.
I would offer up a slight change to F would be as if we did 60-40, 60% off everything except for youth programs and passes. And those were at 40%, we actually end up with a plus $11,000 situation.
So again,
So if we do 60-40, 60% off everything, but 40% off youth programs and passes. I didn't call them, I think we should not call them membership passes anymore. I think we should just call them passes because it's confusing. Because we have two things. So 60% off everything, and I would throw special events in there too. But 60% off everything for members, except for youth programs and passes are 40%.
Facility rental and all that stuff?
I would do it on everything, yeah.
Everything, okay.
That would be my proposal, but also like turkey trot entry fees, and you just charge out a district number, whatever you.
Chalk contest, whatever.
Okay. So you're saying 60%?
Everything.
Everything, and that includes special events, or we say
That's what I
special
would
events?
propose.
Okay.
But that's,
That could change these
Yeah.
numbers a little bit too.
right, exactly, because we don't have that number. But 60%, I think you just have to adjust your pricing, like you were saying, Darren, like
Right.
to make sure it
Mm-hmm.
evens out. But
And I'm comfortable with $10,000 either way. If it gets up to 25 or 30,000, then I start getting a little nervous and cautious. But as long as the numbers are relatively small, I'm fine with that.
what I see when I do the 60% across the board and 40 for youth programs and passes, we don't have any of those red the red and green kind of evens out, so there isn't a big net loss. It sort of achieves more what Skylar's talking about, which is, gets us pretty close to even across the board.
So Sue over here has to say, I like a positive balance. I mean, I do have a question, for example, turkey trot. Now, I am there as a volunteer, but not as an entry fee person. So when are we looking at maybe some kids that can't afford it because we're gonna price them out with the change? I don't know the answer to that, and I would just like someone to tell me.
Well, if they're from Beaverton, is that really our primary, because what I want to do is keep it really low for any local kid in district.
So it would be less expensive.
Less expensive for an
For a
in-district,
local.
for a local.
Okay. All right, I'm good with that. And I liked what Kyle just said, because we need to be careful that, we're not here to make money. We're here to serve our population. But I am more interested in a positive balance. I mean, you're saying that $1.20 rise per hour in salary that went into effect for July 1, correct, Skylar? For wage?
$1.20?
That's what you wrote in the.
Sure, that is true.
But if you look at fees for, if you had a family membership.
No, I'm talking about the cost of doing business, the minimum wage. There's this little bullet point that you have. Since 2022, minimum wage has risen $1.20 per hour, effective July 1.
Yes, that's right.
So you saw that. So therefore, we are paying more costs for doing business, and by using this formula where Celeste is talking about red and green balancing with a $10,000 positive balance, I mean, I'm grateful for that, because it keeps us in the black, and that way we can adjust to other needs as they come up in districts and have conversations about that. But just like Kyle said, if we move to 25,000 in the positive, we need to make sure we're fixing that so that we're helping our patrons more. Does that make sense what I just said?
Yeah, I get it, Sue. I just want to make sure that my impression of what I think we're trying to accomplish is acceptable to the rest of the board. I want to make sure we don't subsidize out-of-district, provide that our taxpayers are not subsidizing other communities' recreation efforts.
Right.
And not to say I'm not willing to share in certain situations or whatever, but I really think that we got to protect our taxpayers if we can.
Yeah, I had right by this hearing, I don't know if I was hearing Sue correctly, that a member, a district resident, who had a family membership, would a grandparent who lived in district be able to bring her out of the district grandchildren to the pool under that pass? Under a family membership.
I don't know,
I've always kind of thought,
policies.
yeah. First thing I would do would bring my grandkids to the pool. And it would be covered under a family membership. Would that be true?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. I don't know what we do currently, so I think, but we probably should get that down and get it figured out, because can I bring all my friends in?
And
Let's
the
make
friends
it's
bring
not
us.
even a family. Let's say, can I bring my friends that live in Cannon Beach in and get them in under my, so I think maybe there's a
If they're just
trick
friends,
around that.
then, you've got the family thing too.
Yeah.
The friends of.
I'm gonna have to go ahead and tell you no on that, Celeste. However, we do have the grandparent situation. We have, and I've gotten this question a lot of times about grandparents that are hosting their grandkids for 2 weeks during the summertime. And actually had a lady who had a grandniece that came and stayed with her. This particular individual, her situation was, she's on insurance benefit anyway, so obviously the grandniece doesn't get to come in under that pass. So she did pay the daily general rate for her, but it was a resident rate. I think is how what that came down to, you know. But the question is a really good one. Is that just another benefit to our district residents? That if they're a resident of this district and they have a grandchild coming to stay with them for a couple of weeks, do they get the benefit of getting them in at the resident rate?
What's the eligibility policy?
I'd love to say that we have a really well-established eligibility policy, but this is one of those outlier things that occurs when you're putting together a whole program. We have family passes. It's for for up to 4 people living in under the same roof, or I think now it's 6 people. That policy was updated for 6 people living under the same roof. That's the current policy, but it doesn't. It's not robust enough to capture that piece for grandkids.
Yeah, you might want to look at the ages of those kids. If they're minors, under 18, then they might qualify for that family pass, being able to share that. But if they were over 18, it might not have that benefit.
I believe under the Justin Cutler era that the family pass did adjust to recognize grown children living in the same household as well.
I noticed.
Also, it wasn't. It changed from being a mom and a dad living in the same household and their kids to include.
I like the idea of giving that benefit to our in-district members, that they can bring their grandkids. To me, that's like, I don't know, I think it's awesome. My brother-in-law worked at Nike, and I got a family pass, right? Like, I get to go use the Nike store. Like, I think that feels really good. Like, it makes me feel like part of the group. Like, I think that's a nice benefit to give our district members. You would want to have some safety so it doesn't get misused, like me bringing my buddies from Astoria, so maybe you cap it at a certain number of people that can come in under that, or they have to pre-register, or something like that. But
so at the zoo, granted different things, but when you buy a membership there, you can opt to get guest passes.
There you go, something like that, yeah.
So you can have 2 guests join you.
Right. So help me here for a second. So if I have my daughter who used to work there come down to go swimming, she'd be able to come in and pay, because she would be under my roof, she would pay an in-district fee to swim?
$2.
Right?
$2.
Okay. That's so funny. You have to pay to go to school where you used to work. Okay, well, excellent. I'm happy.
Are you ready for a motion?
Well, I would like, before we vote, I would like to, because there are A, B, C, D, and E, I just want to make sure that most of us have focused on F because of the loss being less and the fact that now we're going to be able to balance it in a little bit of way by tweaking it. I just want to make sure that we have given option A, B, C, D, E a look that says, no, not for us. Because that's a lot of work you did, Celeste, and again, I thank you.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, I will just say, not that but I agree, that I think this, when I got to the 64, I was like, oh, this feels easy to tell people about, it feels easy for the staff to figure out, and it feels easy to maintain moving forward. So that was, and sometimes you have to do a lot of different scenarios to get to the right answer. The other way to go would be a flat rate. I don't like having more than the 2. I think once you get down to it, it's too complicated. Yeah. So the other way to go is a flat rate, but we would have to really increase where those bid us is, like, if we could do a 60% across the board, that would be great, but we would really have to jack up our youth program rates for the retail rate.
Yeah.
And I don't know if those would then comply with what the state says the max is. And I still think you have to check the numbers I have here to see that they comply. Yeah.
So I think what we kind of landed on is option F, 60% off all fees and events.
60% off everything, I would say, except for passes and youth programs.
Okay. So 60% off everything except passes in these programs, option F. I personally would like us, for our membership, to get that a little more defined, like what is included, and spell it out for people so that they can understand what's included. I think the idea of offering passes, guest passes, would be great. I wanted to point out, this page in this guide that I pulled from Lincoln City is specific to memberships, but I don't know if we do this. Do we have a map in ours?
No, we don't include the map, yeah.
We don't anymore.
I would maybe consider putting a little map in there, like if you're in this, and then spell it out. But I also, in here, it says proof is required at each time of payment to receive the in-district discount. Because that kind of goes back to my comments I made last meeting where, you know, if I'm in district now, but I move, how often does that get checked? You know, and I think if we're giving these great discounts, I think we need to be a little bit more robust in checking and making sure that you still qualify.
Yeah, I have to show my ID at Nike every time you get the
Yeah.
family.
And while it's more work, but I think it's more communication with our PR staff.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'd love to see more signage in the entry and in the catalog, like that shows the rates and shows the map and has, like, I think this is a real opportunity to really talk about membership and the benefits of membership.
And I still want to throw out there, I would still love for us to have a rental membership for those people that have rentals in our community to use.
Oh, to buy.
For like the shark passes.
So they can offer to their tenants.
Yes, so as a selling point for their rental, that they can say, you can rent our property. And
So
use
I'd be
the
happy
pass.
to take that on as a separate deal to work
No, I
with
know.
staff
I
and
just-
try to come up with another
Bring it
proposal.
up.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, I totally agree with you, because as a separate
Because
proposal.
that's how you capture those tourists.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'm ready for a motion, but before that happens, I just have one, comment. So, there has been a lot of drill down, and you've gotten a lot of the granularity out of the revenue side of the equation. But we don't know how much our costs are for each of the services we provide. At least we don't have a formula for that. Or maybe we do. Maybe there's one in
The 110% cost recovery did that for us.
Okay, so, is it fair to say that those numbers are still reasonable, reliable?
Yeah.
Okay.
It
Then I'm
was
good.
about, 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah. If we know what our costs are, and this is what we need to do to figure out what our revenues are.
I mean,
I'm in.
it's point in time data, but we basically like have a set of data and we can
A
model.
formula that you
Yeah,
can
we can
apply.
model.
Perfect.
I think we try our best within reason to do that. Obviously, we're not gonna be able to capture, all of the costs, like aging facility costs, and I think we, like, PRS
That's
costs.
called depreciation.
Yeah, yeah, but.
Well, just close.
Well, I mean, if we have an understanding, or if you have an understanding, I don't need to understand it, but if you guys have an understanding of what it costs to put on a swim lesson, then you can price your products for district and other districts relative to what those costs are. Apply this formula and we're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I'm golden. This is awesome.
Okay. Everybody, any last comments, concerns before we accept motions? All right, go for it, Kyle. I feel like you.
Okay, so I am gonna move that the board accept option F1. Option F with the following amendment, that option F will include 60% off all fees except youth programs and passes, which will be 40%.
Okay.
And the district will set prices commensurate with board instruction, I guess.
Works for me. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks. We'll go with Mike. All in favor signify aye, opposed nay. Kyle?
Aye.
Celeste?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Board comment. Kyle?
First, Celeste, you are awesome. Thank you for this work, and Skylar and staff. I hope we continue to, use data to drive our decision-making. I think it's really valuable, and it helps us clarify some of the things we want to clarify. Second, for the last, 10 days or so, myself, my family, we've been glued to the TV set watching the Olympics. And I can't help but think that so many of those Olympians started out in places like this. Started out running on the track, playing football, swimming in the pool, doing whatever. So moms and dads, if you're out there and you're watching the Olympics with your kids, know that this is where those activities start, and bring them down and get them started. So that's all I have to say.
Celeste?
Yeah, I just want to thank the staff for pulling all the information together, because that really was the heavy lift, to pull that all together. And I'm excited to have at least the start of a formula to help us, I think, modernize how we're developing our rate schedules, and I'm really excited for the communication to the community about the awesome benefits of being a member of Park and Rec.
Thank you. Sue?
Basically, first of all, my apologies for my tardiness. Please save me a copy of this, because I'll come get it. Celeste, incredible job you did in guiding us to figure it out, and the team effort behind getting this put together. Thank you all. I too have been up with my sister watching some Olympic activities, telling caregivers who have children, that's how you start. And showing them the stroke and turn judges, standing at each lane and working the sides, and telling them this is where it starts, and you move up to this level of competition. The one-handed touch is disqualified in the 8-year-old as well as the Olympian, and they're not having an Olympian doing that. But anyway, and so it's with true gratitude that I am so grateful to be included in this very fine group of people providing play for our mission statement, our value statements, so that our community has a place to be healthy and to strive to find your place and improve. And the thing is, we need to have the facilities available, so we need the people to run it. We need the financial stability to sustain and promote growth, so that we are there for those youth and for those Masters members, don't forget them, and whatever program they're interested in pursuing. Heck, pickleball might be in the Olympics someday. So just grateful that we can come together, that we have people like Celeste with your mind to put this forth and to communicate it, even when I am, 80 miles away. So I'm very grateful, and thank you, team, for us being willing to collaborate and listen and make something work for our community.
Thanks, Sue. Mike?
Everything's been said, it's so wonderful, hard to add to it. Do appreciate all the work that's gone into this from staff and Celeste particularly with her leadership. It's wonderful. I apologize for stepping out of the meeting, but I had an important medical call I had to field that.
No worries. Thank you, Celeste. You're very good at this. And thank you, Darren and Skylar. I think this sets us up for a good future. I think our vision of showing our district members benefit to being part of our district, and then also trying to entice some new folks. I think this is a good step. So thank you everyone for joining us at 3 o'clock on a Thursday, and yes, Pat.
I think you were wanting to reiterate your issue about wanting the benefits to the district residents to include more than just price.
Yes, yes,
The first in line option.
First in line,
Yes.
yeah.
yep.
The, fast pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
it.
Right, for sure. Anyway, thank you everyone. Meeting adjourned.
All right.